This week on Country Music Junkies, we have a new artist to introduce you to. His name is Quinton Blair, and he is from Manitoba. Quinton, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Well, we are very pleased to have you, and pleased to talk about your music and learn all about you. Let's start kind of at the beginning. You're a singer-songwriter. You have an extensive kind of career in music, both in kind of the country and roots categories. But let's start at the beginning. When did this all start for you?
Well, I guess I was kind of one of those kids that grew up playing piano and stuff, and kind of got that solid foundation in music that way. And when I finally realized that it wasn't really for me, I got up the courage and told my mom that I'm going to quit piano. So by the time you get that courage up to talk to your mom, I was probably 22, 23.
Oh, wow.
I'm just kidding. I'm glad you got the joke. Some people don't get the joke. Yeah, so I was in grade 9 or 10 or something, and Mom, this isn't for me. And we had some friends who were musicians, and one of them had CDs out and played gigs all the time. She's like, "Are you sure you don't want to be a musician? That sounds like a fun life, and I don't care if I ever play an instrument. I don't care if I ever play a show, whatever." A year later, I got a guitar from my uncle, and I was playing it for about 4 hours a night and started a band, and here we are, 15 years later, still going.
That's awesome. That's a great story.
Yeah, my mom has the great "I told you so" now. Right?
There you go. That's awesome. Now, you have had the privilege of traveling Western Canada and working with some pretty big name artists, Corb Lund, Doc Walker, Emerson Drive, to name a few. What has that been like?
I don't know. I've been asked that question a bunch of times. I kind of feel like they're regular guys. They put their pants on one leg at a time as well every morning. So, to stand to the show and just chat for a little bit, it's pretty cool. It's an honor, absolutely, to get to be on stage and kind of, we're opening for them, so we're warming up the crowd and whatever, and it's a great honor. But at the end of the day, I mean, they're great guys, and I've become friends with some of those guys and some of their band members too. It's just, musicians are musicians, and they're pretty easygoing people in general. So, and then once you really start to break it down, the musician community is a pretty small community, so everybody knows everybody else somehow. So it doesn't take long before you start networking and just building relationships in that world. So,
talk to us about performing, because I know that you play a ton of shows and you're constantly performing in different venues, both in the States and in Canada. So, talk about performing and what kind of draws you to the stage.
It is a tough one, because I'm a dad. I've got a 3-year-old daughter at home, and she's musical, and she loves to sing, and she has an extensive list of lullabies that we have to sing every night, and so I love being at home with her. But it's kind of that moment when you step on stage, and it just feels right, and you kind of go, you know what, I didn't choose music, music chose me, and this is just what I got to do. So, that kind of gives me that strength to get through on the tough nights and really embrace it on the good nights, because not every show is a sellout show kind of thing. So you kind of just fight your way through some, and then at the same point you just know you're doing the right thing and that you're on the right path, and you just trust that chips will fall into place when they're supposed to, and you just want to be there and ready for it. So that's kind of it. I love traveling. I love road trips, and I travel as a solo. I'd sometimes play shows as a duo or a trio, a 4-piece band, 5-piece band. It really just depends on what the buyer is looking for at that time. So I find a great challenge in trying to win a crowd with just me and my guitar, because if you bring an all-star band on stage, not that it's easy to win a crowd, but it's a heck of a lot easier when you can turn it over to the guys and they're just ripping crazy solos and just sound fantastic. Whereas when you're playing you and your guitar, it's more up to your stories and your ability to run a conversation, like a single-sided conversation with the audience. So,
right.
So that ends up putting me in places, everything from listening rooms to where people are there just to hear the show, to honky-tonks, to country fairs, to rodeos, to whatever. Folk festivals. It's funny because I walk that line between folk and country. So, I end up at a folk festival one weekend, and a country festival the following weekend, and then 2 rodeo dances the following weekend.
There you go.
I love it. Yeah. I love the diversity, because every form of the act has a different playlist. So, sometimes you're a little bit more on that folkier, rootsier kind of sound, and then You know, sometimes you're just on the full-on honky-tonk, Waylon and Haggard kind of sound. So I love that. That kind of drives me and spurs my creativity, I think.
Makes sense. Now, let's talk about your current album, Blues Man, and what fans can expect from that album.
Yeah, you know what? It's Bluesman is very, very happy with that record, and I guess for every artist, evolution of sound and writing is a part of releasing records and then moving on to new stuff. And so Bluesman, I actually spent a lot of time writing that record in a log cabin in the woods.
Wow.
But I've got some friends they've got a log cabin maybe 15 miles from my place or something, so I just drive there Wednesday mornings at 8 in the morning. But of course, musician time, that's really 11:30 by the time I get actually get out the door. But so you go there, and the thing about a log cabin is when it's minus 40 outside, it's also minus 40 inside. So you split the wood and you start the fire, and it gives you time to sort of reflect on your writing and do some editing before you even pull out your guitar and start singing, because it's too cold yet to do any of that. So yeah, so a lot of that record was formed in a log cabin, and it's a lot of kind of rural country. You know, it's songs about small towns, hard times, difficulties that small towns can go through, yet still finding hope and love in the midst of it all. Take My Hand, Take Me Home is a song about summer fairs, and actually just, you know, we were talking about George Canyon earlier. I knew I was going to be playing a show with George probably about 6 months down the road, and I was standing at one of his, because I saw him in concert right before, 6 months before that show, and we were standing there, and I just thought, this is actually a pretty cool moment. I was there with my wife, and so I wrote Take My Hand, Take Me Home about being at a George Canyon show at a country fair.
Oh, no way.
And I knew I'd be reliving that moment 6 months later, and sure enough, it was great. So I end up writing and touring music a lot like John Hyatt. John Hyatt wrote Angel Eyes, and he wrote Mary Chapin. I think it was Mary Chapin did Come On Baby Drive South. So he kind of had some real mainstream hits, but he's also kind of on that roots rocker, bluesy kind of sound. Memphis in the Meantime was another one of his tunes. And what he does is he'll write songs and he'll tour them, and then he'll go into the studio with the same players he was on tour with. So the songs kind of organically grow. And it's not kind of being in the studio saying, well, let's do this, that's not working, let's try this. You already played that song 80 times that year on a live stage. You know what works, and it's just kind of organically grown into its current form. So that's kind of the model that we end up taking, and I'll take, for the most part, my same guys that I go on the road with into the studio with me, and it makes for an easy recording process because we all know exactly what's happening, and then you kind of allow the song to just organically create itself.
Right.
Through all that. So Bluesman was a good, solid reputation, or a solid representation of that. But it's kind of like the track Bluesman, because I write songs just me and my acoustic guitar, and I'll either write them in the log cabin, kind of treating that songwriting like a trade, where I go in there and okay, now I'm editing, now I'm doing this, and working. Sometimes I'll also write when the inspiration hits, but a lot of times that's at 2 or 3 in the morning when I get home from a show. So I wrote that song at 2 in the morning after watching the movie Crazy Heart, where Jeff Bridges plays a washed-up honky-tonk singer.
All right.
And I tried to go to bed after watching it, and I couldn't. Had to get up and just had to get it out. But it came out as a really slow song because of the time of day that I'm writing it, right? You're not rocking out at 2 or 3 in the morning.
Right.
So I wrote the tune, and I played it for the guys, and they loved it. But it just wasn't quite right to play it slow. But we went into the studio right away with it. I had a radio station who was asking me for some new material. So we went into the studio and just recorded that right away as an acoustic version. But we knew that if we were going to call the album Bluesman, we had to change, the tempo of it, change the song a little bit to make it happen. So we did, and we put it very up tempo and kind of a good dance beat to it and stuff like that, in a honky tonk kind of way. But so in the end of the day, we have this great rockin' track called Bluesman, and we also have this acoustic track called Bluesman. So both tracks ended up making it onto the album because depending on the show and depending on my mood, I'll play it 2 different ways. So it's kind
there you go. That's
fun
very
little
cool.
fun little thing for the people who come to the shows all the time. That's a fun little they don't know which blues man they're going to get, and that's kind of become, I guess, one of the signature songs for me. So that's one that people are calling out for and singing along to. So
if fans want to check you out, check out your music, and check out that video, where can they do that?
QuintonBlair.com. That's my website, and yeah, it was a cool experience. We went into the college radio station. They wanted us to come in and do a live off the floor kind of session with them, and I said, "You mind if I bring some video people along?" And they said, "No worries." So it's brand new tune. I don't even have it down in the studio yet or anything. It's just on my iPhone, a little voice notes recording that I send out to the guys and say, "This is what we're playing this week." And so they they learned it, and we put it down in the studio. Now we're going to tour it and probably go into the studio. Targeting October, November. That's what we're shooting for. So
perfect.
We'll have a bunch of shows under our belt, and we'll see how that one goes. It's called In the Eye of the Storm.
Excellent. Well, fans, be sure to check it out, QuintonBlair.com. Quinton, thank you so much for chatting with us, and best of luck with the upcoming music.
Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.